Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to master an opening that gets played at the amateur level and the scholastic level an absolute ton. So it happens after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. This is called the Italian game. And then we're going to have bishop c5. This is called the gioco piano. And then almost inevitably, a whole bunch of moves will get played here without anybody actually thinking about what's going on. They'll play something like knight c3, knight f6, castles, castles, then d3, d6, and then people will just kind of start playing just from here. And this position actually by itself is approximately equal. This is a fairly level position. So what is the reason that people play this position over and over and over again at the amateur level? Well, the reason is because we teach kids and we teach amateurs that when you start the game, you want to develop your pieces, castle, and attack the center of the board. And when each side does this, it just kind of ends up looking like this. Now, how can we play chess from here, and how do we take advantage of people that are kind of playing this position and, in my experience, just kind of closing their eyes and playing this position? A lot of people will play this position without thinking about the moves that are getting played, and they'll also play this position without thinking about kind of where their pieces are. They're just kind of waiting to get to this position so they can play chess. And there's a very serious way to take advantage of that, because we do have to be very, very careful whenever an early bishop pin happens, like with bishop g5. Now here, if white plays bishop g5, this position should just be considered slight edge white. Like just bishop g5, h6, and then we could just actually get a slight edge by taking, which would probably be the way I would go. I would just get something kind of asymmetrical, like takes, takes, knight d5, queen d8, then c3, and I've lost my bishop there, but I have a little bit of compensation because I have a slightly better center. All told, it's not a whole lot to write home about. The position should be really just equal. Like if I put this on an engine, it's just going to say just dead equality. And that's fine. I mean, we can play chess from an equal position. There wasn't a whole lot in the position anyway. But another thing that you can do is, since both sides are castled, you can actually retreat in this position with bishop h4, and you can try to play this position as well with white. And this position is also fairly close to equality. So both of these positions, as you can see, Stockfish is giving is pretty close to equal. Now, where things get interesting is when we play these bishop moves kind of early. So like if black is just kind of playing by rote, like knight f6, and we play d3, and then black castles without even thinking, this could potentially be a problem for black. For example, we could play this move bishop g5. Now, this early bishop pin, and I say early because black still hasn't played d6, and normally when people play this position with white or black, they will castle and play d3 before they start using their brain. And this can be something that you can take a huge advantage of. So if they play h6, it's fine. You know, white's still got a very slight edge here. You could just do something like bishop takes f6, queen f6, knight d5, queen d8, c3. Is basically the same position you had a minute ago. Now, white has a very, very, very slight edge. Maybe not a whole lot to write home about, but hey, you know, you can play this equal position from here and you can go for a win. But if they omit h6, if they close their eyes and they play d6, and I want you to watch this assessment here. Right here, it's equal. Everything is fine. If they play d6, knight d5 is completely winning. The whole point is that you're going to be tearing apart the position of this black king because the black king was castled. And that's something that people don't pay attention to when we have these early bishop moves, is somebody castled or not? And that's really, really important. So like, for example, we would have bishop e6, knight f6, gf6, bishop h6, rook e8, knight h4 would be almost completely winning. The whole point being is if bishop c4, we have mate in 2 with queen g4, king h8, queen g7 as mate. So going back, what's another thing you need to keep track of with early bishop moves? Well, sometimes early bishop moves are a mistake. So like, let's say, for example, we haven't castled, right? But let's say white has. So let's say that white does the thing that white usually does here, which is white castles super early. And then let's say that we have something like knight f6, and then we have something like d3, and then we have d6, and then we have this early bishop g5. Well, now we kind of have a reverse situation. Black hasn't castled yet, but we're playing this early bishop g5. Now let's say you're playing the black pieces here. You haven't done anything wrong in this position. When you play this move pawn to h6, again, white can go for this relatively equal position. White can play something like bishop f6, queen f6, and then try to play knight c3, and this position is close to equality. Although here, I kind of like black a little bit better, because black can play knight e7 and prevent knight d5 completely. So I think this is maybe closer to slight edge black, although the computer still gives complete equality. So you can still kind of play chess from here. This is kind of an interesting position. But if you retreat, you already start getting into some potential trouble with g5, bishop g3, and then bishop g4. And now, again, you have to use your brain if you're playing the white pieces, and you have to be very careful about your next couple of moves. You really need to play this move knight d2, and your position is still kind of, it's teetering on the edge, but it's close to equality. So like you can play knight d2, and you can continue with pawn to c3, and you should be close to okay here. Like for example, knight h5, pawn to c3. The main thing is you're ready to counter in the middle with d4, and you're keeping the black knight out of d4, so you're not going to be completely lost. But just to give you an idea how easy it is to lose this position, again, watch this assessment change, and watch how badly it changes here in a second. If we move this knight to c3, and I don't even like making this move, it just feels so bad. If we move this knight to c3, just thinking we're going to develop pieces, now white is completely dead. White's losing to a kingside attack. It's now like +2 for white. This kingside attack is just inevitable death. Like for example, h3 takes, the computer gives gf is best, queen d7, king d2, castles queenside, and this king is just getting destroyed over here on the king side. The king position, the king structure is getting destroyed. Black essentially has a winning kingside attack. So the fact that the king is castled is a huge problem, and actually one of the most common ways that Scholastic games will end at the lower levels is white will castle early, and then we'll have d3, and then we'll have knight c3, and then we'll have this early pin with black. Black will play bishop g4. And again, whenever you see these early pins, 99.999% of the time, the right response to the early pin is going to be to immediately play h3 or h6 if they make an early pin. So here, you really do need to play h3, and you need to kick this bishop, and now black is still okay. He can play bishop e6, and then bishop e6, fe6, and this position is approximately level. White's doing okay, black's doing okay. It's very, very slight edge white, actually. White's doing fine. But black certainly hasn't given up the game. But if white were to just, again, close his eyes, not think about what's going on, and play a move like d3, I want you to watch the assessment drop here. If white plays d3, black is going to be completely winning after knight to d4. And the whole point is, again, this king is castled, and we're about to break up the position around the king, starting with knight f3. So if, for example, bishop e3, we're completely lost after knight f3, gf3, bishop h3, and then if rook e1, we would lose the game on the spot with bishop takes e3, and then whatever takes on e3, we're going to be playing queen g5, and then queen g2 mate. So that's kind of the idea there. So the real secret to these positions is keeping track of these early bishop moves. When they make these early pins, you have to immediately question these pins with the move pawn to h3. It's probably one of the most critical moves you need to add to your understanding of chess, is whenever you have an early pin, immediately put the question to that piece. And that's something that you're going to see strong players do all the time. And then another thing is, okay, let's say everybody behaves themselves. Everybody just kind of does everything, and they all castle and everybody gets castled. How do we play this position from here and play for an advantage? Well, now that both sides are castled and we make our early bishop move and they play pawn to h6, I would say there's two ways to play for an advantage. You can play bishop takes f6. This is like my preference just because I like my plan after this. I get to play pawn to c3, and I kind of have one more trap here, which is if they don't play a6, one of my threats is to play b4, a4, and then take on b6 and mess up their pawns. So I kind of like this idea, but this should be very, very slight edge white. And another idea here is we can, in these positions, it's okay to retreat, and we can play chess from here. So for example, bishop h4, we could continue with something like bishop e6, knight d5, and then we could have bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, and let's say g5, we would have bishop c6, bc6, bishop g3, and now the position of black's king is kind of messed up, so white can certainly play for an advantage from here, and he should have every expectation of doing quite well from here. And that's kind of how we should be playing these positions. Is once we get here, now this move bishop g5 is not premature, and we should enjoy some sort of slight edge with the white pieces. So, anyways, that is how we play this position that gets played just an absolute ton on the Scholastic level and on the amateur level, and that's just the right way to play it from the position that you're probably going to get to every single time, but also the right way to handle little early move order deviations, especially early pins with the bishop. How do we handle that, and how can they be big mistakes, and how can they lead to big wins or big losses depending on how you handle that. Well, anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you learned something new about chess, and I hope you can use these ideas in your own games. Thank you very much for watching.